Welcome back, wonderful people. Now, the Shadow Secretary of State for Women and Equalities has blamed structural racism for the racial discrepancies in the ability to pay energy bills. Reacting to ONS figures, which show that a higher-than-average percentage of black adults struggle to pay their energy bills, Anneliese Dodds said this: "The mental and physical toll put on people unable to heat their homes or keep a roof over their heads is staggering, and is particularly intense for black families. Labour has a long-term plan to tackle the structural racism that scars our society and leaves black, Asian and minority ethnic people worse off through our Race Equality Act." But Tory MP Lee Anderson responded to Anneliese Dodds by saying, I won't do the voice, "Now then, it would appear energy bills are racist. British Gas never asked me what colour my skin was when I signed up. This is what Labour stand for. I cannot abide divisive politics. Call this nonsense out." Well, joining me now to keep on calling out this quotes-unquote nonsense is Westminster's most straight-talking MP. It's Lee Anderson. Now, Lee, I should just mention before we start that you have recently won an award, actually, and it is about time that we had an award winner on this show. I think everyone can agree with that. You were recently voted Backbench Tory MP of the Year by Conservative Home Readers, and I would just like to say congratulations. Well done, Lee Anderson, Tory MP, Backbencher of the Year. Right, talk to me about this. What nonsense is Anneliese Dodds talking?
Well, I think, Patrick, and happy Christmas and ho, ho, ho and all that sort of stuff that goes on. I think she's probably had a little bit too much Christmas sherry over the holiday period. Look, this is absolute nonsense, and I think if I was a black man waking up this morning reading these sort of headlines, I'd be pretty upset with the Labour Party. I mean, how dare they? How dare they blame structural racism on a person's ability to be able to budget or pay their utility bills? Again, it's more divisive nonsense. And as she quotes the ONS figures about disparity between blacks and Asian families and white people, I mean, that's a lot of nonsense as well. We know for a fact that Chinese and Indian families earn, proportionally more money than white British people. And she never harps on about, the discrepancies or white working class boys, are they left behind, and you're more chance of being going to Oxbridge if you're a black boy than a white working class boy. So this needs put into one side and calling out, there are problems in this country. We're aware of that. But, to talk about energy bills and blame it on somebody's skin colour is shocking. It's what Labour's sunk to. It's a new low, but I'm not surprised.
They do seem very keen to prioritise everything in terms of race. For example, the Labour Party analysis showed that black households are also 4 times more likely to be behind on rent or mortgage payments than white adults, apparently. And more than 2/3 of black adults are finding it difficult to afford their energy bills, compared with 45% of all adults. This is, supposedly anyway, analysis done by the Labour Party. Do you think that some people might be quite keen for the Labour Party to pipe up on race when it comes to things like working-class white boys underperforming at school?
Well, they never talk about that subject, Patrick. They always play the race card. If you're going to play the race card, be fair across the board. Talk about every single demographic, every single different race, but they won't do that. They've got this a bee in the bonnet, the Labour Party have. They always have about, putting everything back to race, blaming it on race. They always try to find a group of people in society and try and turn them into victims and then convince them that they're victims and we're all nasty, cruel Tories and we're all being horrible people. Look, this is still a wonderful country we live in. I always say that. If people have got problems with the bills, regardless of what race, then we need to get to the root cause, not just saying it's because of a different skin colour and using that. It's pretty poor from Labour. But if I'm going to be honest, they need, if they keep saying this sort of stuff, then that increases my majority in the next election.
Is it not actually a bit of a concern that the opposition thinks that there is structural racism in absolutely every single area of British life? It implies that they look around at all they survey and they think it's all racist and all of it needs ripping up root and branch. That's quite a bleak picture of Britain, isn't it?
It is, and one could argue, Patrick, that structural racism is rife in the Labour Party. I mean, when was the last time the Labour and sexism? When was the last time the Labour Party had a female leader or an Asian leader? Never had that. So they bang on about structural racism. It's they need to look at their own party first. I mean, look, you've got a picture of Sakir there, the front bench. There's not much racial diversity there. They need to stop talking about it. I always say this, Patrick. 99% of the population and the doors I knock on, this never comes up. This is nonsense. This is rubbish. People are concerned about the fuel bills, etc. Of course they are. But this using the racism card is pathetic. It's poor.
Well, just on that note, and moving this on very slightly to another key issue that the Labour Party are very keen to put forward, which is that they are now the party of law and order. For a while, I thought they were just the party of taking the knee, Lee.
Well, look, Patrick, it's interesting. Now, I sat through all the stages of the police and crime bill earlier on this year and the year before, where we were increasing sentences for rapists and murders and child molesters, where we're doing all sorts of good stuff, getting it into legislation. And yet the Labour Party voted against every single stage of that bill. And also, I remember a debate I was in earlier. I think it was earlier this year, where the Labour MPs were complaining that we were deporting foreign criminals. I mean, they actually stood up and says, it was last year actually, I think it was Diane Abbott that stood up in Parliament and said it was cruel to deport foreign criminals so near to Christmas. They were taken away from the family. This is the real Labour Party, Patrick. And I think the people see through this, and they're not serious about it. What they're doing is they're on another bandwagon. There's an election in 18 months to 2 years' time. It's another bandwagon they can join on. But actually, when it comes to the crunch, I don't think the British people will trust them on law and order.
The Labour Party do point to the fact that conviction rates, or charge rates, I should say, have gone down to around 5.4%, which we can all agree is catastrophically low. Yeah. I just wonder whether or not the Labour Party are going to get themselves onto a little bit of a sticky wicket, Lee, when it comes to actually being in power, because one way to maybe cut down on things like violent crime would be to, increase stop and search. And they seem to be dead against stuff like that, don't they? Because stop and search in itself as well, apparently, is racist.
Yeah, this is more hypocrisy, Patrick. You're quite right. Stop and search. We know it works, and they say it's racist. They'll say things like, you're more likely to be stopped if you're a black young man in parts of London. Oh, look, if there are parts of London where predominantly there are a lot of black men, then the chances are black men will get stopped and searched. And look, and if it saves people's lives, if it deters people from carrying from knives and attacking people, there's got to be a good thing. And quite honestly, I'm not bothered what colour a person's skin is. If somebody's got a knife in their pocket, it needs taken away and they need locking up. That's the real crux of the matter, Patrick. Labour's, like you say, their own backbenchers won't be very happy with this sort of language, I'm pretty sure, because they always seem to be interested in not the victims' feelings, but, the actual perpetrators of some of these horrible crimes. They're scared to hurt their feelings sometimes. So, like I say, I think the British public see through this nonsense.
I have got to ask you, though, Lee, I mean, the case for Labour being given a go, right, at running this country is becoming increasingly loud when it looks like the Conservative Party aren't getting to grips with, well, various things one would expect a Conservative Party to get to grips with, to be honest with you, like immigration, like illegal immigration, like housing, the party of home ownership, and like things like we're just seeing now with law and order. I mean, is it frustrating for you to see your party, frankly, deviating from its core message, and then you end up with the Labour Party allowing themselves to stand up and say they're now going to be the party of law and order? We've got the solutions for the channel,
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, Patrick. We have let ourselves down a little bit, I think, especially on the immigration. I know we're trying to get to grips with it. I'm pretty confident that Suella will get to grips with it, but we've said that before. We've been marched to the top of the hill many times on this subject. Look, and Labour are ahead in the polls. That's no secret, but it's not because of anything they've actually done or any of their policies. It's more to do with us failing on certain key promises. But we've got 2 years to turn it round. Like I say, Rishi's come out swinging, and like I say, I think Suella's superb at the moment. She's saying all the right things. If we can get that right, get that trust back with the British public, and I'm pretty sure, because when I speak to voters in Ashfield, they're a little bit grumpy with the Conservative Party, especially the first-time Tory voters. But they're not telling me that they're going back to Labour. They just feel a little bit let down at the moment, but I'm sure we can win them back.
Lee, I won't keep you much longer, but I just wanted to finish with something that I think is quite important, OK? So every single year, Conservative Home do a sweepstake on Conservative backbenchers to try to find the most popular. And the winner, with 54 votes, is yourself. You have beaten Boris Johnson, who got 35 votes. Jacob Rees-Mogg got 32. Remarkably, Theresa May bracketed in the same bracket as John Redwood, 29 each. Graham Brady, 22 votes. But you are the winner of the Conservative Home's Tory backbencher of the year. This comes despite the fact that you have got into numerous scraps with the likes of Steve Bragg. You've called out Gary Neville. You said what I think a lot of people were thinking about, educating people about how to eat on the cheap in a cost of living crisis. You copped a lot of stick for that, but Lee, the public seem to love you. Why?
Oh, you know what, Patrick? Last year I was voted the worst man in Britain by the Daily Mirror. Now, I don't know who actually voted in that poll. I think it was just the people that worked in the Daily Mirror office. But the real one, the real award that counts is the Come Home one. That for me is the Oscar of politics. I'm chuffed a bit, and my family is so proud. And you know what? I just try and say what normal people out on the streets in Ashfield are thinking.
All right, well, there you go. You get another one of these on the way out. Hey, fantastic. That is Lee Anderson there, the Conservative Home Backbench MP of the Year. Good stuff. OK, all right. Lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts on Labour's claims of so-called racist energy bills. Daniel says, if anything, the energy companies are racist towards us hard-working Brits. Black or white, and not towards these immigrants who get everything paid for them. I mean, that's interesting. I don't think that's really the energy company's fault, is it, to be fair? But I do take your point there. I think it is a little bit annoying, more than a little bit annoying. In fact, I find it incredibly infuriating, actually, that where I live right now, for example, this will be the same, by the way, for millions of people up and down the country. Where I live right now, you see energy bills going up and you see whatever going up. And then if you walk within a couple of miles of where you live, there's every chance that you will find a hotel full of people packed to the rafters who've made their way across the channel, and everything there appears to be paid for them completely in the middle of a cost of living crisis. I find that quite hard to believe. And then you do also look at all of the money that appears to be going to Ukraine. Fine, all right, I get that there are a lot of reasons why some money needs to go to Ukraine, but when we're being told that we're skint here ourselves, and then you look at a load of taxpayers' money being sent to people who support the Taliban, i.e. in our Prevent scheme, I find that absolutely shocking. Yes, I can agree with you that maybe you think that actually the way that we are spending our money in this country is not exactly top drawer. James says, I'll paraphrase what James is saying here now, what the heck are Labour talking about? I'm sick and tired of all this racist nonsense. And James, I can't help but feel as though we're just being pigeonholed relentlessly. If there is now, according to the Labour Party, structural racism in our energy bills. I mean, how can that be the case? You've got a meter in your house, right? Or whatever format they use, a smart meter. That just says how much energy you're using. And that's that. What do they want? Anyway, John says, time for one more quick one. No question, Lee Anderson for PM. His come and speak to my constituents in Ashfield would wipe the floor with Posh Starmer and the rest of the Islington set. A real man, some people think.